Zookeepers of Reddit, what's the lowdown? Dirty, inside scoop on zoos. Some people like to bring fruit and stuff to throw into the animals' cages, even though they are not supposed to. If you're around and someone throws a pineapple into the gorilla or chimpanzee dens, gtfo. They will throw that thing full blast at someone. I saw a man get hit full force right in the side of the head, and he was lights out. Pineapple exploded on impact. Paramedics came and everything. I had to draft the zoo's contingency plan for all sorts of emergencies. Flood, tornado, extreme heat, war, or attacks, you name it. The plan included a prioritized list of which animals in the collection we would have to sacrifice to feed to the other animals in extreme situations. I literally created a zoo food chain. Humans were left off the list entirely. I volunteer at an aquarium and the people always ask about whether the sharks that are in with the fish ever eat the fish. Officially we say, Adaru keep them well fed enough that they don't know. But on more than one morning on my initial walk around I have found remains of fish that definitely were at feed fish. On a particularly memorable occasion I found the head of a large porgy just sitting on the bottom. A diver went in and got it before guests arrived. Rhinos may look super intimidating and they can hurt you, but really they just act like big dogs. They love being scratched and will eat all the fruit out of your hand. Late to the party, but I wanted to mention all the older animals. Sometimes people don't realize there are older critters who have health issues. A lot of older fish we had were kept in the back tanks away from view because people assumed normal old fish issues were a result of poor husbandry and would get upset if they were on display. Imagine having your 17-year-old incontinent dog in a zoo. People would think it looks emaciated and pathetic. Along the same lines, zoos have improved significantly in terms of animal husbandry over the years, but a lot of older animals have been in zoos since before these changes occurred. I remember working with a group of chimps, and one of the old chimps would masturbate while staring at me as I cleaned the outside of the enclosure. I had to remember this guy joined the zoo at a time when they would dress chimps up in kids' clothes and make them have tea parties and shit. He had some mental issues that weren't his fault. Thankfully that troop has gotten better housing and care and has now started acting more normally, even reproducing with their own troop members and acting like real apes should. I work with dolphins. These creatures are sexual as fuck. We have two smaller boys together and Thea have been seen stimulating each other. Our 3 female dolphins have fresh water hoses that lead into the pool to play with. They flip themselves upside down, lay on the surface, and let the water do its thing. We also have another male dolphin separate from the others that likes to show his dick to families. Pretty funny to watch tbh. Dolphins are weird. If you have to choose between cleaning the poop from a flamingo enclosure or an elephant enclosure, choose the elephants. The flamingos were by far the smelliest exhibit, and elephant poop is heavy but comparatively odorless. Fun fact about the local zoo I learned when I work maintenance, there is a wolf enclosure. There is info about the wolves. It's maintained. They are just shy / in their shelter ATM. There are no wolves. Never was. Worked in an animal refuge in Bolivia. We were told on our first day not to let the taper turn its back on you. Forgetting that vital piece of info, 3 days later I was filming the taper as it starts to turn its back on me and my friend. Before we could react, it sklanged a 180 and projectile cummed all over my phone and gaping mouth. We cold know it get rid of the smell for days. If you ever come close to a taper, do not let it turn its back on you. Edit. Here's the video. Partner was as a keeper in Dallas. Safety protocols for when a large dangerous animal escapes its enclosure dictate that you lock yourself in whatever room you can get to quickest and grab the nearest weapon, which, for most zookeepers, was a broom or rake for cleaning up animal poop. Used to work at a zoo a few years ago. An elephant died while I was there, and to transport the body out of its enclosure they had to chop him up. R.I.P. Toto. We closed the baboon exhibit because a baboon had a stillbirth and the troop was grieving. In reality they were throwing parts of the infant corpse around and there was nothing we could do about it. Lions know fully well that they can't get through the glass. They do that just to get attention. Dead zoo animals are sometimes fed to carnivores. There is a farm/zoo in the UK that uses crocodiles to get rid of dead cows. The owner once said he would like the same end when he dies. The poor penguin keepers can never quite get rid of the miasma of dead fish that envelopes them. As for me, the stinkiest job I ever had to do was cleaning out the duck ponds. Managed to empty a whole train carriage that evening, even though I had changed and my work clothes were double bagged. My wife was a zookeeper and I used to volunteer there a lot. 1. Most of zookeeping is just picking up poop and making/delivering food. 2. The animal that was least scary was a cheetah. They were pretty cool ignoring everything as long as they had food. The most scary to me were the giraffes. Back then you went into the enclosure with them and they'd sometimes swing their heads around and try to hit you just to be pricks. You had to be careful. 3. The job would actually be fantastic if they didn't let people into the zoo. I worked in 2 completely different departments, elephants and neonates, but the drama between keepers was insane in both. Like, attempted murder level insane. I worked at a zoo in a northern country, can't say which as it'll give it away, which had a white tiger and was quite famous for it. One day the zoo announced the tiger had died of natural causes. Whilst working there a few years after he died, I was told by a keeper that there was actually a problem with the electric fencing in his enclosure that the zoo managers refused to pay to get fixed, thinking it would be fine. He was electrocuted to death a few weeks after they found the problem. They covered the whole thing up by saying they weren't sure how he died, but that he was old. It's still a zoo secret to this day. If you work with the animals there's a good chance you'll not be able to have any kind of social life between the long hours/weekends and the stench. I've been kicked out of stores after work because I apparently stunk way worse than I thought I did, even after scrubbing off. And I'm around animals every day, but I still can't stand when otter/Celian keepers are around me in all hands meetings. The rotten fish plus ferrety otter smell combo is a gagger. Meanwhile, I work with apes, and they say that I smell like I haven't showed in a decade, again, even after I shower. Went on a behind the scenes tour of the zoo. Saw quite a few bunnies come out during the tour. The neighboring park had a problem with people abandoning pet rabbits. It was pretty clear the dumb bunnies were getting into predator enclosures. Tour guide confirmed they were regularly getting eaten. Tour guide also indicated other urban wildlife, raccoons, possums, squirrels, birds were regularly eaten by predators. Said that when they drained the lion enclosure mode for maintenance it was filled with the bones of small mammals. The most amusing stories were about the orangutans who are wicked smart. The keeper trained them to give over items in exchange for food in case they needed to get something from them in the enclosure. But orangutans are smart and realized if they break things up and hand it back in lots of little pieces they get more food. They disassembled a radio that accidentally got left in the enclosure, and when there was an opossum in the enclosure the results were a bit more gruesome. I'm a small animal vet now, but worked in a zoo before vet school. Zoos are one of the biggest purchasers of Calvin Klein's Obsession cologne. The cologne has animal musk in it, and it drives the big cats wild. We used to spray it on everything. I spoke to a zookeeper at the National Zoo in DC. We were watching another keeper inside the cheetah enclosure and I asked him about the danger involved. He said a cheetah is harmless to an adult human because it only hunts smaller creatures. I asked which creature was the worst to go in with, expecting hippo, elephant or croc as an answer. Without hesitating he said zebras, then leaned close and whispered they are the biggest assholes. They will bite and kick for no reason. I still think it's hilarious that of all the teeth and claws out there, it's strip donkey horses that are the worst. Our lions will urinate on guests if they get too close, which is always funny to see. Not so funny to smell. I worked with large tortoises. We had these 5-gallon buckets for cleaning the poop out of enclosures and other buckets for feeding them fresh grass we cut. The first day on the job I took both buckets into the pen and started by dumping out the grass. Then I went around to collect poop. I heard this awful loud grunting and something breaking. One of the 300-pound males tried to bang the bucket in front of visitors and flattened it. He would even follow me around just in case I might leave more innocent buckets unattended. When you're cleaning underneath the perches, parrots will wait for you to look up before taking a shit. They have a good aim. That's how you get shit in the mouth. Don't look up. Not quite as a keeper, but in training to be one. The zebras and Brazilskis horses are ruthless and will tear apart any unfortunate wild kangaroo that dares break into an enclosure. They love the thrill of the chase and the subsequent kill when they get bored.